Savio, we are live.
All right. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone who's in the global south. And of course, if we have colleagues in other parts of the world, good afternoon or even good evening. But today, our July Cafe, we have the pleasure of, having as a special guest Professor Miguel Martinez Luengas from Colombia, from Bogotá, Colombia. And it's a great pleasure to have a colleague from Latin America because this is something that our research group has been trying for some time, is to establish more connections with colleagues in Latin American countries. I'm going first to introduce Professor Miguel Martinez, and then as usual, he will talk about, this topic going beyond the linearity of EFL classes towards local lens, uncertainties, realities, and possibilities from a critical lens in Latin America. And then after the presentation, we will, as usual, open for questions, discussion, suggestions. So then I'd like, on behalf of our group, thank everyone who's here. So our students and colleagues here in the Zoom room, Aguinaldo, Pedro, Vitor, Iron, and also the ones who are or will join us through our YouTube channel. So Professor Miguel Martinez Luengas has a B.Ed, in teaching English, in teaching English, and a master's degree in teaching English as a foreign language. So Miguel, as we see here, it's just like us, an English teacher in Latin America. So he also has a PhD in education, majoring in ELT in education. So he is a full-time professor at the Universidad Nacional de Colômbia in Bogotá, and he is currently part of the research group Profile, and his research areas focus on bilingual education, criticality, teacher research education, and narrative studies. He's also the general director of Rede Nacional de Bilinguismo Colombia. If Professor Miguel wants to, talk a little about this network and also some more information, it will be a pleasure. So then, as I said, this is the topic of Professor Martinez' talk today. And on behalf of the group, again, I would like to say, Miguel, that we are very happy for having you here with us. And it's a great pleasure, really. And I hope we can have more interactions, as I said, with Latin American scholars and colleagues. So then we can really create a red or a network, because I know that we have similar realities, we have similar problems, but we also struggle for similar solutions in language teaching education. So then I would like to pass on the word to you, Miguel, and as I said, you have the time you need to present. And after that, we will, interact more with questions and comments. So welcome to our group, and the floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Before starting, could you please confirm? Can you hear me?
Yes,
can you
we
hear me
can
well?
hear you all right. Yes, perfect.
Okay. All right. That's nice. Thank you, Professor Savio, for the invitation, and of course to the research group Cafe, which is very close, at least in the here in the discourse, in the title I can see it's a cafe. It means it's a very informal
Yes,
conversation
yes.
about different topics, uncertainties, let's say challenges, and why not realities that we are facing here in the south, from the south perspective. Thank you once again, Professor Savio, for this chance to spread the word about the possibilities, about some uncertainties, and about some ideas that I have that I have been thinking of, especially in our field, in the ELT, EFL field, which is the one that I have been working with during this last time. The name of this informal conversation in the cafe is going beyond the linearity, sorry, the linearity of EFL classes towards local lands, uncertainties, realities, and possibilities from a critical lens in Latin America. Well, I would like to change the dynamic of a very formal presentation, and instead of that, I would like to present ideas related to the article I sent previously, which is pretty much about the coloniality and criticality in a public school within this presentation. Why? Because during that time, it was in past, I was working in a public institution here in Bogotá, Colombia. Bogotá, the Colombia's capital city, and during that time, I faced, let's say, difficult situations, but more than difficult ones, realities about our field, and not only our field, about our community, about our territories. In that order of ideas, what I would like to do right now is to, let's say, mix, if you allow me to use that word, let's say, um, dig into the realities in a public school within a project that is on run. I mean, I'm working in a research. It's a postdoc research that I'm conducting right now next to Professor Lin Mario at USP, Universidad de Sao Paulo, and it would be beautiful to face, to make a contrast between what I'm doing now and sorry again, and it will happen, during too much time. But yeah, I would like to connect the research that I'm doing right now within the realities and the perspectives that I faced during my time as a public school English language teacher here in Bogota. Okay, well, after this introduction and after this first step, I would like to outline this conversation cafe. Perhaps it's not a structural situation. It's not a linear perspective, but from the very beginning, I would like to, let's say, put on the table about my enunciation, put on the table the realities that I'm let's say, checking right now in my life. Then some aspects about local bilingualism, including policies, including projects that Colombia, my country, our country, is facing right now. Also, some key options about criticality and why not adapting into decoloniality, because maybe you're working on or you're thinking about it. So the criticality and the coloniality has a strong connection, and maybe we can confront these ideas. We can make a dialogue and we can have discussions about it, which is pretty awesome. And finally, what is the next step or what we are doing now? This is the outline about this cafe. I'm repeating again and again. It's very informal. Please don't hesitate to interact, to confront ideas, and of course, to interrupt this presentation, because this is what we mean about criticality, decoloniality, interruptions constantly, okay? Of course, if you allow me to, use this panel, use this way to spread the word, to express my ideas, it would be great, okay? Well, from the very beginning, so I would like to start this conversation with you, my dear ones, about exposing myself. And first of all, it's very important to analyze who I am. And for doing that, so I consider myself as a bird, but as a bird, not in a cage, not in a, let's say, in a cave, maybe a free one. It's more than a bird. I consider myself, If I were an animal, I'd be maybe a dove, free from bracelets, free from the system. I really know it's difficult to understand freedom in a very subjective or objective situation, because freedom is something very, let's say, tricky to analyze or perhaps to understand. On this same hand, I consider myself that I am a free person and conscious with a conscious thought. In general, I'm a free person. Well, this is the very beginning of this conversation, well, of this presentation that I prepare in this space next to you, colleagues, because I don't like to present something about academic aspects. For me, it's relevant the ontological position of a person, of a subject, from their agencies in plural. So, what is the idea? Now tell me about you. How about you? Yeah, I know it's a little bit difficult maybe to interact with the participants because we are in a YouTube channel, if I'm not wrong, but maybe with the people here, the organizers, why not? Professor Savio, Vitor, okay, maybe you can write here in the chat, or you let me know, maybe in YouTube, if some people are, writing some, let's say, identity co-constructions, why not? Or maybe an identity aspect about his or her life, okay? I'm gonna give you just a couple of seconds. Of course, if you wanna speak, go ahead. It would be totally normal. It would be, of course, totally acceptable to discuss this first part, okay? Just a couple of seconds, let's say 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and then I'll move into the another aspect of this conversations outline.
Okay, anybody would like to say something? Professor Miguel has mentioned here, Daniel, Pedro. I prefer that the ones who are here can say something. I have talked a
It's
lot.
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, I can say
Victor,
something about it.
yes, yes, go ahead,
I
Daniel.
loved how you defined yourself as a free person. I wouldn't say I am a free person yet, but I'm in the process of trying to understand that I'm in prison, especially academically speaking, the rules, what the expectations in terms of, presentations and writings and all the work as a professor, you know what I mean? And
Beautiful, beautiful.
right? Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice.
I'm in the
Thank you,
process,
Daniel.
and
Yeah.
works and studies such as yours, they help us to understand. They help us to see possibilities. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So thank you for that.
Okay, Daniel. My pleasure. Yeah. I think it's okay, Professor Savio. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Professor Savio, if I ask you to define yourself from an identity construction or subjectively construction, which
Uh-huh.
word you prefer? Well, I know it's difficult, absolutely difficult, because it's just one word, okay? But I think it can be um, it can be beautiful to later analyze this word in
Mhm.
terms of ideology, language, performances, agency, among other
Mhm.
ones.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, it depends if you allude to a bird or any animal. I think a bird is a good representation, despite the fact that, as Danielle said, and I believe you also think about it. So we are not in a cage, but we have other invisible or several invisible cages in society, because, of course, society has a lot of regulations, and we need them, but there are also impositions that, in many ways, make us less free than we wanted. You see?
Mhm,
So
mhm,
then,
mhm,
of course, we are free to a certain extent,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
But then there are several things that make us feel, let's say, imprisoned, ideologically, politically. But I like the idea of the bird, or maybe a flower or something like this.
That's
something
nice.
closer to nature, where to a certain extent I can be, free, despite the fact that we have a lot of hurdles in the middle.
And
That's
Savio, if
nice.
you allow, Miguel, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
What Savio said goes in line with what Adriana is saying on YouTube. She
Uh-huh.
says that I am a free person, but sometimes it's difficult to be free because of the system we are
We are
Yeah.
involved.
involved. You are
Uh-huh.
involved.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Okay, thank you very much indeed.
And
Because
by the way, I'm sorry, Miguel, just one more.
no, it's okay, Daniel.
Isabella
Go on.
just said, Isabella Damas, she says, I think I see myself as a cat, maybe, always curious, always trying new things and new adventures.
Adventures.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's
Uh-huh.
nice.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
as you mentioned, pretty connected to the nature, right? To the environment, and I think it also represents a very political and an ethical condition of the
Mm-hmm.
of the of the subject of the person. Okay, and this is the beginning of the conversation, but we have many things to speak to discuss about just preliminary ideas. Something that something that catches my attention the most is that most of time, well, from my experience, I would say most of time the people are identifying, or no, better, are naming themselves as people in the academy, people in the, from a very academic position. That's very difficult to understand from my point of view, because I ask many colleagues, many people here next to myself, and they say, okay, I have a PhD, I have a master's degree, I work as a professor, my areas of interests are, and they list, many academic situations instead of, sorry, very very close situations or affective ones. Okay, that's something, particular, curious, from my curiosity, that I perceive. Okay, especially in our field, in the ELT or in education. Yeah, I mean, this is just as I said, the beginning of the conversation. Then, well, now on our, let's say, on our way, it will happen during during these 30 35 minutes. I will be in other routes, in other ways. Maybe it will happen. Please try to make me focus on the presentation, on the conversation, because it usually happens. Anyways, so realities through imaginaries about bilingualism, English as a foreign language here in Colombia. And I think it's not just in our country, not just in Colombia, not just here in this, let's say, specific territory or land in the north of the south. Geographically speaking, that represents something, no? Colombia in the north of the south, okay? And this is very particular because in our history, Colombia has been, as you know, has been facing many difficult situations. But some people, and that's another key aspect that I would like to mention, put on the table right here, is that they believe we are in the north and we are, in a top-down position, superior, because of the north and because we have two oceans, the Pacific one and the Atlantic one, pretty close to our country. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's like something like, what? Yeah, maybe we can discuss later. Geographically talking, it's something very challenging to analyze. But now, related to bilingualism and imaginaries here in our country, the level of English is low compared to other countries. Why is low? Because the data, because the stats, the statistics, and because of the numbers give to people another reality. And for example, external institutions, I'm not gonna say the name of them, they compare Colombia with other countries in the south, within the north, and within, of course, west perspectives, west countries. But the comparison, it's very offensive because these external institutions can generate data from just a couple of people, from different contexts, but not the real ones. And the result is that the level in Colombia, the level of English language in Colombia is low. Second one, and that's totally normal, not just in Colombia, but I think in South America, Latin America, and different countries, of course, limited exposure to the language of a high number of students, and that's the first reality I would like to mention in comparison with the article, well, actually, it's not an article, a books chapter that I wrote some time ago, like 3-4 years ago. And I said in the article, the high number of students is a challenge for teachers. No, English language teachers, no, all of them. I mean, all the areas, all the disciplines, have the same situation, high number of students. When I'm talking about high number of students is that maybe you can have 40, 42, 45 students in the same classroom. Also, another reality that is also in the chapter, if I remember, is the socioeconomic conditions. Public education in Colombia, especially here in Bogotá, because I need to speak about my reality and about my experience, of course. The socioeconomic conditions are not the best. Why? Because you have students in the classroom who didn't eat breakfast in the morning, who didn't eat anything, and they are going to the school just for eating, not for studying. And that's absolutely normal. But some people don't understand that because people, teachers, directives, believe the education is the solution of everything. And I had students in the public institution, they came to my classroom just for eating because the food was free. But that time, nowadays it happens pretty much the same. But what I would like to mention in here is that the students had other kind of, difficult or particular areas of interest, not education. They needed to eat. And for that reason, they came to the school for doing that. So also geographical location, well, it's absolutely normal. And my dear ones, territories, border lines, border areas, geographical location means that students should run at about 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers to go to the classroom, and not just in a very straight, avenue, or, in a very straight line, with difficult conditions about geographical location. It happens too much, especially in rurality. Rurality is absolutely, adverse. Now, let me find out another word. Very real about the conditions, because when you are in rurality, rural areas, it's pretty much the borderline. Boaventura de Souza mentioned that, which is the normalization of education. But in my choose, it's absolutely difficult. It's absolutely abnormal, but it's a normalized, position of the system. Also, connectivity limitation, of course, with the pandemic and, with all this, let's say, infrastructure about internet connection and other ones, my country is facing difficulties about, internet access, among other issues in terms of technology. This is the second one. And the third one, I would like to quote Jamit Fandino here in Colombia, and he mentioned that bilingualism is not promoted through educational policies. Why educational policies? Because the government should be interacting, with the people. I mean, with the communities, with the educational communities, and unfortunately, it has been very difficult, to have communication with the government, with the policies, with the government plans and also with the system in general. Because for them, for Ministerio de Educación Nacional, que es la organización en Colombia that regulates, bilingualism, is not promoted bilingualism from a very real perspective instead of an imaginary perspective. For them, when I'm talking them, it's, other people in other systems, they believe bilingualism is just about numbers, it's just about data. It's only about the number of students who are giving a proficiency in different levels. What levels? European levels. The framework. I don't remember the name, the framework. Yeah, that's the name. I forgot the name of European framework, the proficiency level, right? About that, I'm gonna give you the name because I have reference, the Colombian European framework, the framework of reference. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry about this. What is the name of this?
Common European framework.
The common European framework. Yeah, it's the CEF something, right? I'm sorry.
CEFR. Yeah.
Yeah.
European of reference, right? Yeah.
The reference. Yeah.
Yeah.
About proficiency. Yeah. I'm gonna mention something about it.
Okay.
Thank you, Savio. So now, this is something about not the state of art, not very, aggressively academic, of course not, but it's about some literature and studies about the realities in Colombia. From 1994, which was created the General Law of Education, until 2026, the next year, it's happened, different perspectives about plans in Colombia. 1997, it was a project about having proficiency for students in the framework, in the European framework of reference. Then, by 2004, the creation of National Bilingualism Program. The program was started, and everybody was absolutely happy because people, people believe it was the solution. The plan was the solution. But then it was another, let's say, regulation, another law called bilingualism law, and it was taken from various articles, too much information about, let's say, giving a support to the National Bilingualism Program. Then by 2014, Colombia Very Well, another program. Then 2015, another program, Colombia Bilingüe. And what will happen later? What will happen next? Carmen Elena Guerrero, a very well recognized scholar here in our country, mentioned, propose the good, the bad, and aspects to improve, about the regulation, about the programs, about the law, about the, let's say, the perspectives of the government about bilingualism. And there are many good aspects the government implemented, okay? Maybe a question that you have, hey, Miguel, all these law programs or national programs on bilingualism were created by teachers, by directives in the school, by students, or who designed these programs? The government only. How? They hire British people, American people, and they created different programs with a totally different perspective from the reality or from realities. This is something very hard for us, okay? Especially, the scholars or, the teachers, local teachers, because we didn't have any voice, for implementing our ideas or for proposing new aspects or different challenges that we have been working with or we have been through, right? But some good aspects, as I mentioned, I'm sorry, it was like a short let's say, parentheses about the idea related to the creation of the program. So good aspects, materials, immersion programs. Have you ever heard something about immersion programs? Now the name is boot camps, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, creating programs. Yeah, there were good aspects about the law system, about the bilingualism program, but also there are many aspects to improve. Many, okay, especially about the promotion of native speakerism. Okay, clear aspects about conceptual definitions, especially about bilingualism, because most of people in Colombia think that bilingualism or bilingual education is just English Spanish. Unfortunately, it's not like that. As you know, we have here in Colombia more than 157 languages, native languages, indigenous languages, and the bilingualism has invisibilized, those languages, because the English is the only one that students should know for doing something in the future, for giving a solution, for promoting power, among other aspects. Okay, this is just the first aspect about literature studies, but also we have like some data, because if the government or if the law system like a lot numbers, also I need to mention about it. This information is not in the books chapter, by the way. I mean, this information was like hidden maybe in the books chapter because I didn't have a space. And I think that's a good compliment during this presentation. Here, the results, I know it's a little bit old, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, these graphs. However, between 2016 and 2017, more than 2,300 English teachers from, what is IED, Instituciones de Educación Distrital. It means public education in Bogotá. They were tested, the teachers, the English language teachers were tested using an aptis for teachers, which is, if I'm not wrong, a standardized test from the British Council. The overall results compared to the national average. Resultados en la CSED. SED es Secretaría de Educación Distrital, Colegios Públicos, Public School. The first graph on my left. Okay. A1, short. A2, B1, B2, but C1, it's not like, very high in terms of proficiency. But in other cities, in other departments, cities here in Colombia, it was lower. It was like lower. For example, have a look at the A1, high percentage, high amount. It's a big number. So the people who are not studying English, the people who are not interested in education, people, general people who don't care about bilingualism, see this graph and immediately they think like, we don't have good English language teachers in Colombia, in Bogotá. This is the first picture, because I did an exercise, a very, very challenging exercise, and I showed, this picture to some people, and they think like, they immediately, said that we are not very good English language teachers because look at the number, okay? How come? A1, it's a big number. A2 also. How about B1, B2? No way. It can happen. And immediately the people realize we are not doing a good job, okay? But that's not true, of course not. This is another graph, but from students. Look, if the teachers, yeah, this is, I'm gonna make an exercise, a very exciting exercise. If you analyze, teachers are not okay. Yeah, teachers are not good in terms of proficiency, English language teachers. But how about students? Come on, it's worse? Of course it's worse, because look at the students. A1 level, a huge number. Look at this pie chart and look at the bar chart. It's like, A1 level only, C1 level 0. It means we don't have good English language students. So it means the English language classes are not appropriate. They are not certainly demanding for the system, for the government. So what we are doing right now, what we are doing in our realities, in our classes, in our classrooms, okay? So now from critical lens, from criticality, I would like to mention 4 aspects, which are, in my case, in my position, key. The first one is the infrastructure and resources. This is not just in Colombia. In several Latin American countries, there are inadequate infrastructure and insufficient resources hinder the delivery of quality education. That's absolutely normal. The infrastructure is one of the issues we need to discuss. We need to think about it. The second one, remote and rural areas. When I'm talking about remote, sorry, it's not only about online processes. No, remote is the borderline and the rurality. Yeah, many difficult aspects, which these institutions, these schools are confronting, are facing, are, worrying about it. Okay, basic amenities such as proper classrooms. That's a totally normal aspect, and it is normalized that you are in a rural school here in Colombia and the students don't have chairs to get the classes, to be ready for the classes. That's insane, and but it happens, and that that's very difficult. However, the government don't pay attention about that because, I mean, we are working in. You are a good teacher, Miguel. You have different resources. You have your knowledge, and you can implement different perspectives inside the classroom. Yeah, but I need at least 40 chairs for my students. No, but maybe group work, you have strategies. No, that's not the point. Okay, this is something that we need to ask for. Inequalities in access, inequalities in plural, quality and completion, particularly affecting low-income students, rural areas, and racial and ethnic minorities. I said, racial, ethnic minorities. We don't pay attention about this, our communities. And well, this is a very critical aspect. The last but not the least, schools manage high rates of absenteeism, okay, low levels of parent involvement, because the responsibility of education in English language classes also is for the teacher, is against the teacher, is against the institution. But how about the parents' involvement? Lack of resources, detrimental to students' ability to learn and grow. Okay, so I have an exercise here, but I'm afraid we don't have enough time, for doing that. So maybe when you have time, yeah, I know it's difficult because I think most of you are English language teachers or teachers, but the time is, is pretty short. Maybe you can scan this QR and you can, you can include some words or some sentences about this question, related to this question. What critical aspects from your educational experience or contexts do you want to share? Which ones? What critical perspectives? Of course, we have power issues, gender, identity construction, among other ones. So if maybe in the future, Professor Savio, we have another invitation, we can discuss a little bit more about this aspect, okay? So then, well, about this one, give me just a second. I have a message here that says I have a low internet access. I'm sorry. Can you hear me and can you see the screen? The one that says conflictual dialogues?
Yes.
I
can.
Yes.
Yep. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Internet connection problems, realities. Okay. By the way, Okay. So now I would like to connect my experience in a public institution here in Bogota within an ongoing research that I would like to, continue working on and doing many things. Okay. Of course, with you, my dear colleagues at your university, at your territories, of course. And I would like to confront my experiences, my ideas, to reflect upon conflictual dialogues and mutual perspectives. So in our field, in the ELT field, I've read information about verticality, the top-down position, as you know, the modernity issues, coloniality, the West-North perspective, verticality, but also horizontality. No, horizontality, it's like I think it's not a new boom in the ELT field, but many people, are wondering about, no, my classes are very horizontal because I am next to the student and I am next to other teachers, and horizontality is key. I mean, is the way, is the way to go. However, from my experience and in this research, I would like to mention the mutuality, the mutual perspective as let's say as a possibility of doing something in the future. What is that? I'm not gonna read all these four clusters, balloons that are here in the presentation. But first of all, I would like to mention that the pedagogy of conflict represents a challenge for me because it's a way of relearning with another person, a student, directive, parents, teachers, and it's a way also to have conflicts, in my spaces, in my community. But maybe you can think like, Miguel, but why conflict? Conflict is not okay. For me, it's fine. We need to be ready for having conflicts or conflictual dialogues because we have very disagreements. Maybe we agree or disagree, about different situations. But this condition of thinking about the another person, being in the other shoes, is for me very ethical. And this is something that I would like to do. How? I will show you in a couple of minutes, in 2 or 3 minutes. Another one, it's that for me, the conflictual dialogue defines something very natural and facilitate the communication. Okay, because maybe as a teacher, I have an agency, but the student has another or other ones, and the conflicts, together can facilitate the communication. Negotiations, if you want me to put it in an ideological position or perspective, okay? Cultural interactions between countries, contexts, and ways of perceiving that English as a foreign language pedagogical strategies. This is something that I would like to do. In this research, this postdoc research I'm conducting, I've been working with 8 teachers in Latin America, 4 teachers in Brazil, 2 teachers in Ecuador, and 2 teachers here in Colombia from different contexts. What it means that some teachers are working in public institutions, public schools, for example, in Brazil, public universities in Brazil, but in Colombia, rural English language teachers. In Ecuador, from English language institutes. And maybe you consider like, hey, Miguel, why institutes? English language institutes represent, a very North perspective, a very neoliberalism aspect. Not at all, not everything, because I need to have conflictual dialogues with these teachers, with these contexts, and these ways of perceiving the pedagogical practices, the pedagogical strategies. The last but not the least, I would like to read this last one from Gadori. Conflict is one of the most important aspects of collective learning. Yeah, I know. Learning is a collective space, but the conflict generates a very important issue in that collectiveness. Okay, this is the strategy. Well, not the strategy. Yeah, I think it's not a strategy. This is the movement, the vehicle, the assumption that I would like to do during my research. And also, I have I have taken some possibilities from criticality, but from Latin American educators' voices, very local. Okay, first of all, I would like to quote Freire and Giro. They mention, something beautiful about the critical pedagogy that emphasizes the necessity of expanding the discussion of the connections between alterations in power, subject positions, and discourse changes in structure. That's for me, um, that's for me very tricky and challenging and challenge. And it's a challenge. Why? Because in a conversation with Mary, a public university teacher in Brazil, she said, I'm trying to take advantage of this situation. What situation? Discuss a little bit about the idea of a native English speaker and the idea of good English while discovering new cultures. But we are in a process. I cannot say now if these discussions are causing any changes. From my interpretation, not analysis, from my, let's say, humble opinion, I think that she's taking advantage of the presence of exchange students to generate a class discussion about the notion of native English speaker and the idea of good English, while also exploring new cultures. Mary has more than 25 students, in her room, where the students are from different, cultures, and they were, discussing the idea about good English. Perhaps it could be a good idea or not. This is not a binary system. This, in my research, I would like to, let's say, position myself in a no binary process. It's not okay. It's not bad. This is not black. This is not white. However, something important for me is that there is an alteration in power, an alteration on subject positions. Why? Because the cultures also improve the idea of making discussions. The culture is an ideological aspect that we should take advantage in our classes, but not only about the culture in the north, not only the culture in the west, the culture of a perspective of dialogue, the culture of a perspective of having advantage in the discourse change. This is the first aspect that is, let's say, relevant in my research. The second one, it's about this one, challenging hegemonic issues, Rolex, the Rolex, the watch, the roles and positions. Bourdieu mentioned this one, about these hegemonic issues. Which ones? For example, Ariel, a rural school teacher here in Colombia, EFL teacher, he said that testing English is relevant, is important. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna read it. Tested my English to see if I was actually good at it. This initial situation generated my insecurity since I lacked knowledge about the imposter syndrome. Remember the imposter syndrome and the ideology surrounding the figure of the native-like speaker. Yeah, he was criticized in the rural area, in his rural area with his rural students, because his accent is not in the native-like speaker, right? So from my opinion, from my interpretation, from my analysis, he recognizes his initial training. What initial training? When he was at the university starting to be a teacher, did not address these questions, which make it difficult to develop his professional confidence. We did not study this in my graduation course, the program. And some of this confidence process I conquered on my own. It was not on the curricula, on the syllabus from his university. I'm gonna move because my battery is low and I need to connect. Yes, I need to, yes, plug the table. Can you hear me? And can you see the screen?
Yes,
I'm finishing.
yes.
I'm finishing. Promise.
No, it's
Savio.
okay. Yeah, we can hear you. It's all right.
Okay. And also I'm finishing, okay? Because yeah, I know about the time. I think 3-4 more minutes would be enough.
Don't worry,
So,
don't worry.
If we analyze this part of the Ariel's perspective, is also pretty much conducted into recognition, you know, how the student observes the teacher as a native-like speaker or as a transformative intellectual, in Kumarabadivelu's words. Yeah, maybe for Ariel, this situation was very difficult. Perhaps it was very you know, it was really uncertain. You know, it was an uncertainty because 2 or 3 students mentioned that for them, for the students, that was important. But Ariel considered it was just, you know, a way of implementing his classes. This is something very, you know, challenging, as I said, in terms of hegemonic issues and the role of the teacher. And not only the role, I think the position of the teacher here is like presented for everybody. So another aspect that I would like to mention in the research is about humanizing education, humanizing pedagogies. Of course, Freire, you know, stated this particular situation too much, but I would like to mention that Kinchela from 2008 said that humanizing education is not only about discipline. And when I'm talking about discipline, it's not only about the content, it's not about the information, the data, the credentials, you know, from the teacher, the experience of the teacher. It needs to go beyond. Humanizing education, from my position, and Susie has helped me to realize the importance, you know, the relevance of humanizing pedagogies from different perspectives. I would like to mention, I would like to put on the table three main concerns about the last, I think it's not the last aspect, this overview about criticality from Latin American teachers' voices. The first one, understanding from students. And we said, like, of course, we are doing. I'm afraid, in my case, I'm not. Asking students about their objectives and expectations while avoiding making judgments about their skills. That's absolutely normal. But if I am very honest with you, I'm gonna be naked here with you. I don't used to do too much, you know, with my students, asking them about their expectations, you know, their wishes, their desires, because I'm worried about the content. Of course, the content is relevant because that's another situation that I would like to mention, my dear ones, colleagues. There is now a movement, especially here in my country, maybe in other Latin American ones. I haven't seen, I haven't heard from other countries, but the students at university, in the university level, you know, undergrad students, they are paying too much attention on the coloniality, criticality, which is absolutely normal, which is beautiful. However, they are rejecting the structural conditions of the let's say, of the English as a foreign language system. What is that? I can talk to some students and they tell me from first or second semester, BED, it means bachelor art in education, right? English language teachers, future English language teachers, information. And they tell me, hey, teacher Miguel, why some teachers are asking me about the idea of coloniality, modernity. That's beautiful, that's very nice, but I'm not interested in knowing about that. And we need to respect, when I'm talking about we, the educators, the English language teachers, the universities teachers, right? But it's absolutely unbelievable, because the students now would like to study more the decoloniality, the criticality. Once again, it's normal, it's fine, but they don't pay attention on the structure. They don't pay attention on the linearity, which is the title of this presentation. And I think this is my humble opinion. If we need to criticize something, we need to know about it. In Lin Mario's words, we need to identify, we need to interrupt, and we need to interfere. But
interrogate and interrupt.
Interrogate and interrupt. Identify, interrogate, and interrupt.
Yes.
But the student doesn't do that. The student just, interrogate, and maybe, no, I consider some of them, but most of them even don't interrupt, but they don't identify, and we should identify. This is an aspect that concerns and challenges the most right now in my classes, because it's not easy. Involving students, motivating students to participate actively in the learning process and share their experiences. That's that's a huge picture, about what we are doing. And the last but not the least, generating a friendly environment, including present-day issues while promoting empathy and understanding. Empathy and understanding, both are intercultural characteristics, abilities in education, interculturality, empathy and understanding. But Miguel, why interculturality? Because you are talking about criticality and decoloniality. Yeah, they are together. I think they are like friends, brothers, sisters, okay? It's like a family. And I think one is, of course, connected to another one. Finally, power issues in the ELT field. This is another aspect that I would like to dig into my research, and it is pretty much about the power dynamic in EFL classrooms. There are many issues to control, the students. There are many possibilities of, having the control of the classes, of the classroom, But for me, it's important that the power issue, the power dynamic in education is not only about the teacher performance, it's about the construction of the community, Some power issues in the classroom that I can, analyze from this study: imbalances in participation, control of the learning environment, the way of language is used and to construct social hierarchies, vertical positions, top down, no? Remember the top down I mentioned, not the horizontality, teacher authority and students agency, pretty relevant when we are talking about criticality, student power dynamic, the student between an imbalance with another student because of the social condition, because of the political, assumption, gender and sexuality. And for me, this is of course, not the conclusion. This is a highlighting, idea, statement that I would like to propose. Language as a tool of power should be contested, should be worked on, because language is not a tool of power. Language even is not a tool. Language is a possibility. It's a way of, perceiving our nature, our ways, are options. Finally, some potential thoughts. I'm not gonna read it. They're gonna be here in the slide, but I would like to finish with two learnings during my research, and not only the research, but the experience with my school's students some time ago, and it is about two aspects. From criticality, the first situation in the ELT field from EFL classes is that now I consider myself as a very thoughtful person in terms of social transformations, identity construction, inequalities, and power issues. These four aspects for me in criticality have helped me to be let's say a closer teacher, and I think a more reflexive one. This is the first aspect in this conversation with you, in this, let's say, conversations conclusion. And the second one is that I consider myself a free person, but also a very political agent in my society, because I help the community, and I would like to find out a way of well-being for the community, and that's a political condition in my case. Political condition or a political assumption should be, performed with the community, helping the community, not just about own concerns and own issues. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Here are the references. Muchísimas gracias por la invitación. De nuevo, perdón, me excedí. Yo creo que unos 5 o 10 minutos, profesor Sabio, para todas y todos. Un placer. Soy Miguel Martínez de la Universidad Nacional de Colombia. Aquí mi correo, lo que necesiten, ahí estamos. Por favor, necesitamos. We need to talk together, right? We need to do something together from a very South perspective and from our communities, okay? Muchas gracias de nuevo, un placer.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you very much. If you could just stop the slides, but anyway, just let's leave it for a few seconds, just for people to get to know your email address. If I'm sure that people may want to contact you later, but anyway, thank you very much for this very interesting, presentation and discussion. Of course, we can explore a lot of different issues here, and as we have some comments already on, in our channel. But thanks for sharing your thoughts and also ideas as a teacher educator, especially English teacher educator in Colombia. And of course, we can easily see that there are many similarities between our realities. So Brazil and Colombia, despite the fact that we are, as I said before, we don't interact as much as we should, and we, as you invited us to do that. So, but there are many issues that also apply to us. For example, when you mention, those different programs created by the government or, generated by the government without, a voice of the teachers. So in many ways, influenced by international agencies. This also happens here, and not only in Brazil and in Colombia. In many places, we have that, there is this tendency, especially from governmental agencies or policies, to, when it comes to foreign languages, to invite, agencies from hegemonic countries to, as if they have the solution for local problems. And I agree with you. We should take a stand and say, as scholars, as researchers, that we are the ones that should be invited, to discuss these issues and also propose programs in terms of foreign language education or second language education, bilingual education, because we are the ones who know the reality. Of course, we can accept help or assistance from let's say, from external agencies, but I don't think they should lead. But we know that these things are complicated because it involves politics and also money, financing, etc. But it was good to know that you have been, as a scholar, together with other scholars, you have been calling attention to this, that the voice, or maybe the main voice, should be ours. So local teachers, local educators, etc., etc. So thanks for giving us this broad, let's say, picture of what happens in Colombia in terms of foreign language acquisition, especially English, right? Because we know that things are not different. So if we compare Colombia and Brazil, Brazil still has, I would say, if we look at the numbers, so in terms of English proficiency, our country is also in between low and let's say moderate proficiency. So then the problems are similar. The lack of resources, problems with internet connection, schools, infrastructure, but also this discourse that you mentioned here, and you mentioned in the text, that students don't see a reason, a very strong reason to learn a new language or to become bilingual, despite the fact, as you mentioned, in more or less the same number in Brazil, we have, you said we still have 150, around 150 indigenous languages in Colombia, as we have more or less the same number of indigenous languages in Brazil, and they comprise several bilingual programs that they're not visible. And basically, for example, I don't know, probably in Colombia, but in Brazil also, there has been this boom of bilingual education, and basically is what we call bilingual elite education. So just for a segment that can pay, very high prices to study or to attend schools where there are bilingual programs, especially English. So then, and also I was very, very glad to see that you, and I know that you have close connections with our colleagues at Universidade Federal do Paraná, but also that you are constructing and working together now on a postdoc project with under the supervision of Professor Limario at USP. And as we talked, so maybe when you come to São Paulo, you can also come to Salvador. So then we can have some interaction related to
Deal, Professor.
Yeah, with these issues related to decoloniality, criticality, because this is something that we do a lot of research on this area, as you know, right? So then I don't want to take long, but I besides the presentation and also the text that I read, I liked, the text, the way you introduce things here. But one thing that I forgot also, and people mentioned in our channel. So when you mentioned that a lot of students come to the public schools for the meals, it's also true here. So a lot of students, no matter, even in our big cities, not only in rural areas, even in here in Salvador, in Rio, São Paulo, depending on where the schools are located, a lot of students, the main meal they have, usually, it's at school. So they come first of all to the schools because of the meal, and this is something that in many ways put our countries, let's say, at the same in the same situation, and we should not be proud of that, because the students should come to class. Or the meal would be just a complement. They should come to schools to really get knowledge and improve their lives, etc., right? So then, of course, I would have many questions, but I'd like you to, if you could tell us, for example, I was very interested in the relationship, because you mentioned also in the text, as I said, the indigenous students. And when you say, for example, that students, I don't think you have many, I don't know if in Bogotá you have many, or maybe in the rural areas. So, but I was interested in there is one passage here that you mean that, for example, these indigenous students, they are at least bilingual, I would say, in their local language and Spanish, Colombian Spanish. And they don't see, as if they don't see, and I'd like you to make some comments on that, they don't see the importance of learning a hegemonic language like English, for example, because they don't see the future. So they would say, why should I learn this language if I'm not going anywhere? Or is this something that, because it happens here, not only with the population where we do have indigenous languages as bilingual programs, but the general population in public schools, especially because they are more towards those classes that as I said, they cannot buy English, let's say. But is this something that you could say is general within the whole country, including in big cities like Bogotá, Medellin, Cali? So they have this feeling that they don't need English?
Thank you, Savio. Yeah, I was taking notes about your concerns. The first one about elite bilingualism. Yeah, maybe we will have more time later to discuss about it, because from elite bilingualism, there is a distinction between identity and bilingualism and individual bilingualism and social bilingualism. But the one that you mentioned, I think you grouped all of them into an elite bilingualism. And that's a very, powerful definition and concept. Maybe we can discuss later. This is the first statement, the first idea that I took from your intervention. The second one, the students are going to the school for having meals, for having snacks, for eating, of course, and that's I think that's absolutely normal. But people don't don't see this one with good eyes. I mean, they think that's not like that. I mean, that you don't need to do that. You don't have to do that. Especially the teachers don't allow to, give students meals or snacks. I mean, and I was in shock when I heard, not a teacher, of course, but another person, when I explained that, when I talk about it, and she absolutely disagreed, and she said, like, how come? That's not possible. The student should go to school only for studying. They need to eat at home. But it's not possible. I said, and she's, no, it's not my problem, But the problem of the school of education is to educate, to give lessons to students. And I was like, okay, you are not ready for the conflict, for a conflictual dialogue, But like, okay, no problem. This is the second one. And the last, with the indigenous students, it was something very magic for me. I mean, it was unbelievable, and it happened, in front of the classroom, outside the classroom, and the students told me, in Spanish, Profesor Miguel, yo no quiero aprender, no queremos aprender inglés porque no nos interesa, no nos gusta. Además, my family mentioned that it's not a good language for learning. So it means, Savio, that it's not just about the system, but it's a cultural condition, historical condition. It's a heritage. It is a heritage right there. Because of violence, it was a violent epistemic condition between indigenous language and English. And they felt that, I need to be very honest with you, my dear ones. I never explained them the difference between coloniality, modernity. No. Actually, they didn't care. They didn't know about it. But their families, told them English is not for them, And if they need to, fail the subject, I mean, no problem. Okay, but they assume. Of course, they pass with me because they were bilingual. Okay, but Miguel, not English. Your subject is English. No, my subject is not English. My subject is language.
Language,
which is different. But Savio, it's not just happening in Bogotá. It happens in different urban areas. But this is one point, and the another one, it's I have been, working closely some indigenous populations, communities here in Colombia, and they have certain hierarchies, in terms of the language. So it's different to learn one language to another one. I'm talking about indigenous ones.
Right.
Miguel, we lost you. We lost. We lost. The last part. Your voice disappeared.
Oh, I'm sorry. How about now?
Yeah, now yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said, I don't remember what I said. Lastly,
so you said about the indigenous languages that they
the
have
hierarchies.
Some hierarchies,
the hierarchies. This hierarchical position is very, very notorious in indigenous populations, and this is something that we need to pay close attention, because it happens the same in English, but indigenous languages have, like the same situation. And for me, it was another aspect to explore, another aspect to keep in mind. I don't know, Savio, if it makes sense. About the indigenous languages.
So and then I'm going to pass on to Danielle, but before, I understand that you are, for example, a teacher educator in the School of Education, right? Because here for us is a little different. So in the School of Education, our students who are going to be English teachers or language teachers, they have some disciplines, but we at the Letras department or Letras school, we handle most of the disciplines for the future teachers. So then, what is your very quickly, when you mention, for example, that your future teachers, so I'm going to say English teachers, but of course, if you teach other teachers like German, future German teachers, but let's talk about English teachers, future English teachers or pre-service English teachers. So you said that you haven't talked to them very much about these issues, criticality, coloniality, decoloniality. So, but sometimes we see that, depending on the topic, depending on the discussion, these issues arise, right? So my question is, what would you tell us about at this moment in your reality? So in terms of a critical, political, ideological point of view, are you happy with the profile of your teachers? So of your future English teachers? I'm going to of course, we can expand to other teachers because you can have, for example, future Spanish teachers or future, but I'm going just to let's say to funnel only to keep this with English. Are you happy in terms of this? Because you talk about very, very pertinently about identity, etc., etc. So it means that because we struggle to, educate or to help educate teachers, future teachers who have developed or who will develop all this sensitivity towards political issues, ideological issues. So we don't want only a linguistically, let's say, prepared teacher. We want something that goes beyond that.
Great.
What would you tell us about these future teachers that you work with or that you are preparing for the real world
Great.
concerning these issues? Just for us to have an idea.
No. It's nice. It's nice. And once again, it's not a binary assumption. It's the
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And I'm sorry because my connection was unstable, but I heard.
Okay.
I hear you. I hear you.
We have
Yeah.
you. We have
Yeah.
you.
And you can hear me, right? Well.
Yes.
Yeah. Savio, I really enjoy listening to this, let's say, notion of sensitivity. Sensitivity, I think it's pretty much what I would like to do. I don't know if I'm doing or not, but how can I be immersed in sensitivity within my future teachers? Within the future teachers, because they are not mine, by the way. From a very political and social, let's say, impact for the society. First of all, I have an advantage, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to show up a little bit because the students who are coming to Universidad Nacional are very diverse. They are coming from different territories in Colombia, and that's a plus. That's a huge advantage, especially because some of them, not all of them, some of them would like to come back to their territories to do something.
Right.
Okay, and they have a clear idea, at least in the first semesters, right? And I think the territory, the context, the lands are, are relevant for their condition, for their professional condition. This is the first aspect that I would like to mention. The context, territories, lands, and of course, their future, because they want to come back to their lands for doing something. The second one is, in my opinion, I was very worried a year ago when I started working here because some of my colleagues are working too much in terms of decoloniality, criticality, interculturality, and I mentioned in my conversation, in my talk, that some students are paying more attention on rejecting, the linearity, the structurality, instead of working closely, instead of resisting. Reject is different to resist. And in my case, for me, they need to go beyond the praxis in education. Praxis, in Freire's words, practical within theory. But together, there are super powerful, ways of doing something. Praxis for me is that, in my concern, students should be on praxis immediately from the beginning in their careers, from the beginning. So first semester, second semester, hey, how can you deal with praxis? What is praxis? Okay, theory, let's theorizing ideas. Let's do something about a state of art about this and that. But then you need to put that on practice. And I think that's, an A1 process, perhaps. And finally, the last but not the least, I consider in my position, from my agency, from my habitus in Bourdieu's words,
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid I should be very excited in my classes, and I put myself first. And I'm sorry to say that, but going beyond the students' perceptions, I should feel very nice in my class. Why? Because sometimes when I disagree with some positions, which is totally normal, but when I am very sad, when I am very, affectively and motivated about my process, about my job, it could be hard. And it could be hard for me and, of course, for the students. And the students will be teachers, but they need to know that we have problems, that we are humans. If we have any issue, the class can be given. And from a very traditional, Savio, opinion, from a very traditional perspective, I remember when I studied my BED, the teachers told me, hey, Miguel, if you are sad, if you are not okay, you even must teach the class. And now I disagree about this idea because, of course, we are transformative intellectuals, we are agents of change, we are, but we are also humans, and we need to
Humans,
feel very nice, especially, about our own ways. These three aspects, Savio, yeah, pretty much about your contribution, your concern.
Okay, good, good. Thank you, Miguel. So now I'm going to pass on to Danielle, and also I think we have a comment here, and also I think we have a question in the channel. And of course, Danielle and the ones who are here can have. We still have some minutes, so please, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to ask if Ginaldo and Iron they wrote a few things on the chat here in Zoom. So if you want to share those comments, would you like to? Ginaldo and Iron? Your mic is off. Yeah.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
No? Okay. And Iron, what about you, Iron?
Good morning. I won't open my
Morning.
camera because again I'm shirtless. But
Too much information, man.
I loved the all the presentation, all that you showed to us, and as I said in the comment, unfortunately the situation it's about the public school. It's similar here in Brazil too. As I said, I work in a municipal school, and here the students they are uh, uh, from the neighborhood. They're violent, and much of them don't have the so it's not that social structured, so they have to eat in the school, and much of much of the meals are soup, and they hate soup. So much of them do not eat at school because it's soup, and the rest of the day is hungry, and they cannot pay attention in the class because they are hungry and they want to eat something. And especially in the classes, something that we discuss a lot is about the structure for the English teacher, because we do not have that structure in school. Our classes are full of students. We have no much time. We don't have much time to teach, and especially when we face the the attention of the students, they don't pay attention. They, as you said, they ask, why do I have to study English if I won't go to any other country who speaks English? Or they don't want to to learn the language. Do you think what is the paths or things that we should do in class to call the attention of the students, of these students?
The last part, Iron. I'm sorry, just the last part.
Okay. What are the methods or things that we should do in class to call the attention of the students to
Okay.
learn the
Yeah.
language, to pay more attention in class, or at least to
Mhm.
try to engage in class?
Yes. And thank you for sharing your very similar picture related to your realities and the ones that we have here. Yeah, it's not easy, no? First of all, I don't know why people think uh, that being a teacher it's easy and you just receive money and you just work 6 or 8 hours a day, which is a lot, but many people, I think it's not too much. But you know what I mean. You know what I was discussing, and I think it's maybe a good example for everyone as English language teachers, and it is that when it's gonna be very romantic, the comment, but if we don't enjoy our classes, maybe we can have some troubles. I know. I know what maybe you are thinking, but Miguel, you are in a university, you don't have 40 students, 45 students. I had, and I know what is that. And I don't. That's not a formula. That's not a recipe. Of course, that's not an answer, but a possibility of, let's say, implementing, given not good classes. That's not the name. Let's say comfortable classes. It's and it was in the humanizing education part from Susie, a participant in my research. Humanizing education, asking students what they want to do. And you can do things. You can do two verbs in this situation. First, the power dynamic is broken. It's not the teacher says what we need to do, what the students should do. And second one, you give the freedom for students, not the freedom, but the possibilities for students to do something. Maybe not doing something because they want to go out to the break time, to the field, and it can be a good option. But maybe we can ask students what they want to do, what they want to learn, and mainly why, the reason. Because the reason is our approach for a learning construction. The reason more than the way, more than how, why. Yeah, let me give you an example, Iron. Yeah, what do you want to learn today? Yo quiero hablar, of course, in portugués. En portugués, tengo una deuda con el portugués. A propósito, by the way, I should learn. Sabio, please help me, Daniel, and everybody here Agnaldo, Iron. Hey,
And we with Spanish.
diría Clarisa, voy a citarla muy académica, portuñol.
Yeah.
We're speaking portuñol.
Which is another language.
Look, ¿qué pasa? What do you want to learn, dear ones? No, we wanna learn in English about daily routines. Okay, ¿por qué es importante para ti? Why is that important? Why is that relevant for you? At that specific time, I think we have the learning objectives, the learning outcomes of a class, of a lesson, or not just a class of a lesson, of a time. Yeah. But when the student claims, about what he likes, what he doesn't like, what she likes doing, I think that's minimal. PT recognition is awesome. It's awesome in education with kids. with children. Maybe with adults at the university, it can be a little bit different because it depends on the context. Does it make sense, Iron, somehow?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Danielle.
Yeah. Oh, Vitor raised his
Vitor.
hands. His
Yeah.
hand. Go ahead, Vitor.
Hello, Professor. My name is Vito.
Hello, Vitor.
And everything you said here, I think resonates with me a lot in our context, as you know, this link between Brazil and Colombia and English teachers around the South. And one thing I remember while you were talking was one of my English classes when I was a student. That was not a traditional type of class. The grammar class was more a class that we used to exercise more conversation and develop some skills as young people. And the teacher was showing a map of the whole continent, American continent.
Mhm.
And I remember I think I was 15, 16 years old by the time. And I remember first time having a question mark in my head was like, okay, we are here studying English, but like, for example, United States and other countries, they are very far away. But here in Latin America, we have like countries like Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, they speak Spanish, but we don't speak Spanish at all, and we don't make like a big effort for that. And I was wondering why. Why was that the reason? And I think, and this made me question why I studied English as for me. And I think that's a very honest question that I still ask myself today, even as being a student of letras and having my personal goals. And my question will be along the lines of how can we use the language to exercise the freedom that you mentioned before in the presentation and explore possibilities that even that we can show our students that it's not just we are learning just because of learning, that that's a meaning behind that.
Thank you, Vitor, and my pleasure. My pleasure to be next to you during this conversation, during this cafe. Are you taking coffee? No, Brazilian coffee. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I
Okay.
took a while
Yeah,
before.
but Savio, let me tell you the Colombian one. Let me
I know,
tell
I
It's the
know,
best
it's
one.
good too.
The best one.
Miguel, by
The
the way,
best
sorry
one.
to interrupt. Vitor's mom, she's a Spanish teacher.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that's
beautiful,
true.
beautiful, beautiful,
Yeah.
great.
She
How
spent some
great.
time in
She was in
Colombia.
Colombia last year and she brought some
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah. Which part? Which part
She
specifically?
went to Bogota. She went to Bogota.
Bogota? No,
Yeah.
okay, all right, that's beautiful. Hey, that's another way to connect ideas, not just from the academic field, from the academic environment, but and that's totally normal and honest, my dear ones. If you want to come to Colombia, please, I will be with open arms, with open eyes with you here. You're more than welcome, and please let me know. Let me know 2 and 3 weeks in advance, and okay, we can organize different tours, different visits, and of course, because this is not just about academia. This is not just about, there are more things. Vitor, look, I have a situation with a student, also in the school, and she told me, seventh grade, she told me, Teacher Miguel, estamos viendo un libro en donde cae nieve. Me gustaría conocer la nieve. I would like to, know the snow, and the different winter snow and the different seasons in different parts of the world. And unfortunately, I was very aggressive, but honest with her. I don't know if the word is aggressive, but I was very punctual, respectful with her. And I said, no, but in Colombia, we have just winter
Summer.
and summer. That's it. We don't have snow, or we don't have spring or autumn. It's like something very, direct to say a person. And she told me, but teacher, I would like to know the snow, and maybe English. It can be an option. Oh, it was for me like, oh my God, this is a thesis. in terms of research. Of course, I was not extracting information from her, but it was for me a message, like a moral, more than a message, a moral that students or my students or the students who are in our class, in my class, they are learning language, Vitor, as a possibility, not as a power issue, not as an obligation, as an option. And it was pretty much the answer, not the answer, but the conversation, the conflictual situation between you and I. And if you allow me to answer the question that you mentioned, why do you study English? Maybe the question is also for me and for you. Why do you study Portuguese? Why do I study Spanish? A colonial language, Spanish. And people don't believe here in my country that Spanish is a very, epistemical, violent language. That's another condition. And I can answer the question somehow. Why do you study English? For example, in my case, I would like to study English. I would like to write in English because I would like people from the North, from the West, read about my realities, and they can do it in Spanish. You need to do it in English. For that reason, I offer, my papers, my publications in English, because they need to know about it. Well, I think it's not an answer, Vitor, but I think it's like a reflection about your concern.
Yeah, I'm not looking for like straightforward answers, but more like just open that. I would like questions who can open the dialogue, not close the dialogue. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Victor. I would just add very quickly to something that Miguel said. Yes, we need to publish in English because people need to know what we're doing. But again, Miguel, we also need to insist in transforming our languages into, languages or epistemological of knowledge production. Otherwise, it will be comfortable for these people to read in English because, we publish in English. I think we should do both things. At the same time, publish in English, but also insist that our language should be, taken also as, language of academic production. So then this would force, these especially monolingual people to try to understand and try to learn other languages. I think it's a dual movement. You see?
Yeah, it's like a balance. And Savio, I would like to highlight something very, very special here. When we are writing in English, when we are, like publishing some things, some papers, unfortunately, our voices, political, social, cultural voices, are not presented on the texts, and that's an issue because I mean it's like, hey, how can I be involved with the readers within my realities through a text, through an academic, rigid, linear text. Okay, and I think that's another aspect that we should keep in mind.
This is discussion for another cafe.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, because we should write in English, but not the English they want. You see?
Yeah, it sounds better. I think totally agree.
Yeah, Dan, if you could go on now, because I think, Miguel, you have to leave at 10 for you. So then I think we have two comments.
And then we go
on YouTube. Yeah, please.
The first one is from Isabella Damas. She says, "Thank you very much for your words and the ideas shared. If possible, I'd like to hear more about the idea of language as a possibility and not as a tool or an instrument of power."
Well, the point is that the possibility, the option is very subjective. My possibility, my option is different to the student's one. But the point is that how can I introduce the language as an option is through the pedagogical assumptions, the pedagogical concerns. So, sorry. One way, for example, when we are in programs of for students to be teachers. You know, let's say here in Colombia is licenciatura, letras. I think it's in Brazil pretty much.
Same
So
here.
the point is that you can do it from the beginning by studying the methods or the approaches, is the name, traditionally taken here. For example, let me give you an example. We are exploring in our classes the PPP method. You know, well, how can you? It never happens. Trust me, in my office, the phone is never ringing. You know, this is the first time. I'm sorry about it. So, but we have the presentation, the practice, and the production. How can we break some, distinctions between the first P and the second P? Why do we need to start with the first presentation? Why do we need to begin the class with a warm-up? Why not with a discussion? Does it make sense? This is a language as a possibility, as an option, because the language, once again, is not straight, is not linear. It is, I think it's mutual. It's not horizontal, it's not vertical, it's not about movements. The language is, the language is life. I mean, the language is something about, let me organize the idea, is relational with your way to do the things and way to being. This is something about language as a possibility. This is what I would like to do. It's difficult, it's hard. In an ideal picture, I would like to do it. However, it's not easy. But once again, nobody says it is easy, right? But yeah, maybe it's an option about breaking the the system about different options, different possibilities.
Yeah, that's great. That it makes total sense. This idea, the PPP, starting the class with a warm up, ending with a wrap up, and all those rituals. You're taught in licenciatura, right? Questioning it. You're just.
But again, Daniel, I'm sorry, but again, the students from first semesters need to know those rules,
I agree.
those rituals, those canonical perspectives, and then okay, we can talk about it. But something that I disagree quite a bit is that no, they don't read about it, but the student immediately starts attacking, rejecting.
Yeah.
And I think it's not okay.
Yeah, critical thinking, right? We need to understand to start seeing, other possibilities, and it makes total sense. The last question is from our colleague Flavius. He says, "Congrats, Professor Miguel. Can you please say something about from Colombia language educational setting concerning how students are affected by hegemonic cultures, concepts, how teachers and students react, what are their attitudes, beliefs?"
We are in a bubble of capitalism and modernism and the neoliberalism perspective. Okay, and yeah, unfortunately, people still think that English, knowing English, learning English is to have a competition in the system, to win something. What? I don't know, something, to get something, plus to, how can I say that? Yeah, to not confront ideas, but to have a competition with the another person. And if you attack the person and if you invisibilize the person, you are better. In that order of ideas, as you know, the neoliberalism perspective in English language acquisition is for the winner, is for the one, is for the first place. In that order of ideas, many teachers still, produce that way, that marketing place. So what can be not a solution, but an action, an activism perspective, in my case, well, to talk to teachers, to go to the Ministry of Education and to say, hey, why you are still hiding, British people, American people to design the bilingualism law, the bilingualism programs? Why not we can be together, right? Maybe it can be something good, right? However, the government doesn't pay attention about that. And the government members don't assume their responsibility of working together with the community. I think this is the first step. Working together, how? Okay, organize, be organized. Bureaucracy is relevant here? Maybe, because bureaucracy limits to people come together, group together, yeah? But it's not just it's not just about a neoliberalism perspective. We need to go beyond. We need to go further.
Right. I had one final question, but we don't have time.
Please.
Sure. First of all, I loved your presentation. I loved how you structured your presentation. It goes in line with your beliefs. I loved how you wrote your article also. Very, it was like I was listening to you,
Yeah.
Didn't have the rigid, structure of a written academic text, but it had the depth, but not the structure. I love that you talked about yourself. You defined yourself. That is awesome. That is great in a presentation like this. It's not, it's not a normal thing because of the colonial rules we had, right? But anyway, one thing that caught my attention is when you mentioned the pedagogy of conflict. Can you very quickly?
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Bakhtin and Freire's, they both started, thinking about this pedagogy of conflict, but the conflict is not about attacking. The conflict, it's about dialoguing and having conversations, and of course listening to the others and being in the others' shoes, a very ethical position. The pedagogy of conflict should have an ethical movement. How can I do that? Of course, if I feel fine, I can be with another person in this safe environment. And there is let's say a situation here. I think it's not from interculturality, it's more from decoloniality. Cuidemos ese espacio. Take care of this environment. Yeah, how can we do that? Okay, respect, listen to the others, and also we need to include, as educators, we need to include the students' voices, because as I said in the presentation, sometimes it's not happening. The teacher is the teacher and is the one who handles the agenda, the canonical condition of the class, but not the student. And this simple movement, this simple way of asking a person, of asking students about what they want to do, and why they want to do that, I mean, it's unbelievable. I think this is the first step. Okay, work together closely, but also take care of us. Okay, this is the pedagogy of conflict. So the word conflict, I know it generates like some sound, like, but it's conflict. It's conflictual. It's about conflicts. Yeah. But the conflict also is mutual respect. Is also ethical assumption. The conflict is necessary in our field. In our environment, and especially in our classes.
Great. Thank you very much, Miguel.
Yeah, I think Miguel has to leave now, so I'm sorry. We could, stay
Sure.
talking about different things.
You should invite me. You should invite me in a Brazilian coffee.
Yes, we'll have more opportunities. Don't worry, Miguel.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. My pleasure. And yeah, once again, I felt wonderful during this time. I really learned next to you, and that's another possibility of doing something
Yes,
together.
this is just the beginning. Sorry, and then I would like to really thank you on behalf of the group. And of course, if people are interested I hope they are interested in this, exchange between, our work and also our research. So then, it's a great pleasure to, as I said at the beginning, we want to have more colleagues from Latin America working together and doing things together, because we can construct a very strong, let's say, epistemological, production here, and using our languages, not only English, but Portuguese, Spanish, indigenous languages, in order to let our voice travel all over the world. But thank you very much.
Muchas
Before
gracias.
you go, Miguel,
Deje el correo.
yeah,
My mail is here.
Yeah,
Please write
yeah.
to me a message.
Can you take a picture now,
More
Sabi,
than
just
welcome.
very quickly?
yeah. Before you go, we would like to take a picture to post in our
Sure.
pages.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna count to 3, and then I'll take the picture. Okay? Thiago and Maria Clara, would you like to turn on your
They would
cameras?
like to open the cameras.
Okay, 1, 2. Okay. Oops. Maria Clara.
Oh,
okay.
they did.
Just second. Again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you very
Great.
much.
So, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye. Be
Yeah,
safe.
Bye, Miguel.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So,
Bye, thank you.
everyone. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you next class. I mean, not next class, next time.
Next time.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Daniel, have you stopped already? Terminou já aí?